So this is our first session of the new year, 2026. I've been thinking about a few different things to share with you. People have been receiving their thus should you train instructions from the Buddha. It's been really fun to talk about those thus should you train quotes coming out of the Pali Canon. And a couple of different people have the instruction to have good friends, be one that has good friends, good companions, good comrades. And it got me thinking about what that really means. And I was reflecting on how friendship can really span so many different circumstances and qualities, we can be friends with someone who's got a lot more power than we have, or a lot less. We can be friends with someone across the world. We can be friends regardless of all different kinds of characteristics. And I thought, two people can be friends across enemy lines. And I know it's happened. It's happened many, many times, I'm sure, throughout human history. We can't even be friends across species. And it's kind of, I'm enjoying reflecting on that possibility and then thinking about what it really means to be friends. And the Buddha talks about this in some detail in the Sigalika Sutta. It's number 31 in the Digha Nikaya. And he talks about bad friends and good friends. And of course, we want to have good friends. We want to be a good friend. That's how we can have good friends. And a good friend is someone who will look after you when you're not being mindful, kind of look out for you, take care of you. They'll look after your things, your possessions when you're not being mindful. A good friend will share their secrets with you and they'll keep your secrets. Said a good friend might even give their life for you. Good friends are the ones that you can really trust. And trust is an interesting thing. I'm going to come back to that more in a minute. But, a good friend, the Buddha said, gives what's hard to give. And a good friend is one who encourages you to do good and never encourages you to do bad things. And there might be all kinds of relationships that we might think are good friend relationships, but they really aren't, because if someone wants to encourage us to do bad things or is indifferent about it, like whether you want to do something good or you want to do something bad, they still encourage you to do it. That's not good. That's not a good friend. People who want to take the better part for themselves always, also not a good friend. You want to just, be with you when it's beneficial for them and when it's advantageous for them, because people have all kinds of reasons for wanting to associate with people that aren't really at all about being a good friend. And it's good to notice that. It doesn't mean you shut them out of your life, but just to know how much can you trust a particular person, or the way that they're conditioned may mean that there are certain things you can't trust. And I think with all of us, we've got blind spots and defilements and conditioning. So we were talking about this morning. Obviously, I think you could tell we're good friends. And when you live with someone, regardless of differences in age, all kinds of differences, if you're not friends, if you're just with one other person, it's really not good. It's good to be friends. And it's also true that, like there are some things, there's some things she can trust me with and some things she can't. Because I change my mind or, something. And it's true for everyone. You can kind of know, where the strengths are and where things might be a little shaky, or whatever, a different view on things. And when the Buddha said that he's the best friend, because I think, when the Buddha is saying be one who has good friends, he's not just talking about our buddies, our pals, or even our life partners, or our, good friends who are, our comrades. But he's talking about, do you have friends who are actually consummate in wisdom? And, the Buddha being the best friend in that regard. And one that we can really trust. And of course, like we have what we think of as good friends in our monastic elders. And again, even if you have a teacher that you really cherish and trust in many ways, there's probably some areas you can't really talk with them about and have it be functional. It's okay. We need a variety of friends. And we have to learn how to, like I said, what we can trust and really feel confident in. And that leads me to another reflection that I've been having lately around the word saddha. It's usually translated as faith or confidence. In the Pali English dictionary, they'll also translate it as belief. And I have my reservations about translating it as belief. Because in general, I think it really is about the development of trust, which is different from believing something. And I recently heard in a talk by Ajahn Sumedho where he was talking about saddha, and he said at first, when you come to the Buddha's teachings, there's interest, and saddha could be considered to be that interest. And I remember that phase for myself when my son found Buddhism and he decided he wanted to become a monk, and I had that interest in it. I was interested in what he was going to do. And I had the interest to want to learn more, even though at that time I had a really strong faith in God. And I was very much a lot of enthusiasm and faith, that kind of, just open, believing kind of the kind of faith I was conditioned into in my growing up. And the interest I had in the Dhamma and in what the monks were doing and what they were teaching led me to start to really reflect on, so how much of this faith, I'll say, is really grounded in experience. Because we can have that interest, and then as we start to learn more, we listen to more Dhamma talks, we read more of the suttas or other books about Buddhism, and then we start to develop that interest starts to develop confidence. Because and I had this experience, I was seeing examples in the suttas and in the talks I was hearing from the monks of things that I could really relate to from my life experience. So when you start to experience that, I'll say, oh, and one instance that really struck me back then was out of the Ratapala Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. And some of you might have heard me say this before, because it's such a striking moment for me when I was reading that sutta. And there's a part at the end where Ratapala is, the king has come to visit him as he's staying in the king's grove, and they're talking, and it's a very powerful teaching. But I just want to go to this one part where he asks the king if he was strong when he was young, and the king talks about how strong he was and how he had, he thought he had, superpowers. He was so much stronger than other people. And then Ratapala says, and what about now? And he said, oh, now, well, I'm 80 years old and I want to step there, and I step there instead, I say. And it just struck me, because that's my grandfather often said. He kind of had trouble with balance in his later years, and it's like, yeah, the Buddha or the suttas or the teachers, they're talking about things that I can really see in my life. I can see happen, to the people in my life, and I can verify this for myself. That really starts to help us develop confidence. And then I also was reflecting on, okay, there's what I experience, not just in worldly, concrete material experience, but also in meditation, in our, you might say, spiritual experience, in energy, and in, sort of more of a psychic or spiritual kind of landscape, if you will. And then starting to see things that were talked about by the Buddha that one has experienced themselves in that arena. And that helps to build confidence. Like sometimes you might experience some kind of thing in your meditation practice, and you don't know what it is, and you don't know what to call it, but then you'll find it being referred to, and described, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this is on the right track, and of course everyone has differences in that area. Some people see things, some people hear things, some people just know things. Comes to light in your practice. But this is how the confidence develops. And then we start to take the Buddha's advice about things that we don't know yet for ourselves. And last night in the sutta, we were talking about different ways taking up practices, and sometimes it's difficult, but it leads to good results. And so sometimes we don't want to try something. For example, like the 5 precepts, it's like sometimes people tell me I can't take the precepts because I like to drink wine or beer or something. And then I say, well, take 4.5 precepts. You don't throw it all out, or, try it for a couple weeks and see how it feels. So there might be any number of things like that the Buddha encourages us to do that feels like it goes against the grain of our habits. And then it can be hard to do it. But maybe we pick something like that up and we do it, and it's hard, but then we really feel a difference and we like it. And we keep going. And that helps us build more confidence in what the Buddha had to say. Sometimes it can take a while before we see the results. And I think many of you know this. And so you can say, well, there's a certain element of faith that we have to have in order to, take on a practice that's difficult and stick with it. And sometimes we already have that faith. Ajahn Sumedho talks about how when he went to Thailand and he ordained as a samanera and then as a monk, and it was after that he met Ajahn Chah. And he said, his life growing up in America in the 1950s, I think he met Ajahn Chah in 67 or something like that. But his life, his conditioning as a young man in America was that, he could do what he wanted to do. He, very independent and, being able to follow your own dreams and, that kind of thing. And he didn't really describe it like that, but you get the idea. It's being very independent and not following, not following orders, not wanting to have someone else controlling your life. But he knew that because of this strong independent streak, he really needed to have a teacher that he would follow and follow the Vinaya, and that this would be good for him. So where does that sense come from? It doesn't seem to be part of his conditioning, but somehow he knows that this is going to be good for him. Probably because he wasn't really happy going his own way. Something like that. Something can be sort of like we have that sense. It doesn't really come out of blind faith, but there is a kind of like, oh yeah, this is something that I think could be good for me. And then we try it. And you might say, submit or surrender to this training, whether we're in robes or not. And then we get to see what the results are. And then we have more confidence, more trust. And I like that idea of thinking about the development of sadha over time and how it takes on different aspects, that interest, that confidence and trust. Until you get to the point where you're absolutely, without any doubt, completely committed to the Buddha, Dhamma, and enlightened Sangha. And of course, that's described as something that comes with stream entry. Seeing that, having that glimpse of Nibbana. And it's not an issue of blind faith. It's a direct experience. And it's something, it's not just that sudden or extreme insight. It's a building up to that point also. That helps to develop that trust. And then it gets solidified by insight. And so that the Buddha is the best friend. Someone we can really trust to follow. But the other day, someone sent me a passage from, it was actually one of the books in the minor collection, the Khuddaka Nikaya. And it was a sutta, and they're like, this just doesn't add up with, the other things that I see coming from the Buddha. And why would the great monk who's, featured here be interested in this or talking about this and, this kind of thing. And my answer was, yeah, that's a kind of weird sutta. I haven't read that book because, it's known to have been added later, and I just don't have much, I guess we could call it faith in that. And I think this is something that we have to develop, this discernment, because there are some things here and there that got woven into the Pali Sutta Pitaka that just don't add up. They don't align with the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. It's like thinking about friendship again. We can have friends across, like I said, all different kinds of characteristics. Race doesn't matter, age doesn't matter, prosperity or poverty. We can have friends across all those kinds of differences. We can trust people. We know that the development of wisdom doesn't depend on any of those characteristics. It's not about gender. It's not about any of these things that in our conditioning in the world are the things that make us separate, different. And that those things don't have any bearing. Now I can think of a way where it does have a bearing, because opportunity can be different based on how we're treated in society. But in terms of just those differences in characteristics, that's not a barrier to awakening, to the development of wisdom and the development of trustworthiness. So, it's really, it's good to recognize, like, what is it in our conditioning that is valuable to maintain or important to let go of. And I think that as we more deeply understand the Dhamma, we can start to see, what to set aside, to not trust in our own experience, in our own conditioning, and in the conditioning of others, and what we can develop even more trust in order to really develop and realize over time the true nature of reality. And why did the Buddha say that, good friends are 100% of the holy life? Because we need that input from another to really develop right view. Right view requires the voice of another, because we're going into areas that we haven't been before. And to have that influence from someone who's already seen it is so important. So when we think about this year, and what we want to cultivate and what we want to develop, um, think about good friendship as one of the components. And some people are making big changes in their life this year, maybe going into a whole different context. And remembering that there is a good opportunity to make good friends. Really knowing what a good friend is and being a good friend. And we can do that also staying put exactly where we've been for 20 years. There will be new opportunities to strengthen ourselves as good friends and to um, develop that connection with others. And it's also good to think about what kind of friend you are to yourself. This too is a very important reflection, to take good care of yourself and um, be kind and compassionate to yourself. Encourage yourself, and to be mindful of those times when our old conditioning is telling us to be hard on ourselves in ways that are unhelpful, downpulling, and see what we can do to let that go. I'm thinking it might be a good time to meditate together a little while. Yeah, make yourselves comfortable. Notice how the body is feeling. Invite it to relax. And notice how the heart feels just listening to these words and bringing up these thoughts about friendship and change in our lives, the development of our practice, what we'd like to encourage in ourselves during this next year. All of these things can bring up different feelings, different reflections. Each of us might have some slightly different experience even in this moment as we share it together. And what is it like? Or use that way of being present and saying it's like this to hear these words. being present and aware with our body, with our feelings, with our mind. It's really a precious opportunity that's available in every moment. And it's through that awareness that we can learn everything we need to know to be free and happy. We may think we have to do something very heroic or extreme in order to wake up. It can sound like that sometimes. Practicing relentlessly, killing off the kilesas, doing battle with the defilements. But it's not the only approach. It might be the right one for you, but it might not. But regardless of whether we think in those terms or in the terms of the well-being cascade and the natural flow from that confidence to the joy of pamoja to piti and sukha and passaddhi and samadhi and insight. And regardless of the approach, it's awareness in being present, that mindfulness, that resonance with the Dhamma that brings about our awakening. Regardless of what we're feeling, we can really experience it just as feeling. Something to be observed and understood. Regardless of what we're thinking, we can observe it, we can be aware of it just as thinking. Without adding anything onto it. Knowing that whatever pops up in the mind, that comes from previous conditioning. And we can choose where to take it from there. Just observe it. Let that train of thought come to rest. Or we can reflect. If we're reflecting in the light of the Dhamma, maybe something new arises. that informs us and encourages us and deepens our understanding, kind of where thought shifts into intuition, reflection, without trying to figure anything out. Noticing that that can be so peaceful. And you might even find it nourishing or healing. Uplifting. But whatever is happening, maybe something that's downpulling. Whatever it is, we can be present and aware. Be with this moment as it actually is. Maybe beyond the words, the direct experience, without the layers of assessment, without any criticism, without even an explanation or labeling, just directly experiencing things as they are right now. Whatever we discover, whatever we experience, we can be present with it. If it's something painful, difficult, dukkha, and then we come to understand it. See the tanha, the craving that's behind it. And once we see it, then sometimes the letting go is automatic, like dropping something hot. Sometimes we need to investigate it more for that release and relief to come. And if in this moment the experience is joy, happiness, we can understand that, know whether it's got clinging and craving associated with it or just the spiritual joy that leads to more peace, more happiness, more wisdom. If it's a happiness that has more craving and clinging associated with it, it's coming from a sensual experience, coming from the sense of self. And then it's actually dukkha in disguise. So we just come to understand it and let it go in its own time, in its own way, not trying to get rid of it. That's more craving. But if it's that spiritual joy, pamoja or piti or sukha, samadhi, we can just allow those good feelings to help lift us up and calm the mind. Finding happiness and relief in this present moment. Okay, so I have a couple of more things in mind for you if you want to. For those of you who haven't taken the Refuges and Precepts yet this year, you can do that before we leave today. And for anyone who hasn't yet received a "Thus should you train" instruction from the Buddha, if you would like, you can. We can pick one for you from the basket. Just raise your hand, or if there's anything you'd like to ask or reflect on. Anne, you want to just "should you train"? Oh, you're muted, my dear.
Okay. Yes, I'd love that. And are you going to go around and say hello and we get to share? Because there's something I wanted to share.
Oh, okay. Well, first I'll give you your just the "should you train."
Okay.
Well, it's very short.
Good. Write it down or remember it.
I will dwell diligently.
Ooh.
I will dwell diligently. And you can look up the reference and see what else is there. It's from the Samyutta Nikaya, so SN 20, number 1.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What would you like to share, Anne, if you are, yeah? Or would you rather wait until we?
No, I can wait.
Record?
Well, no, I mean, I'll say, no, I'll wait. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Make sure we come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Carol. Are you wanting a "thus should you train"?
Yeah, please.
Okay, here we go. This is from the Middle Length Discourses, so MN 39, 6. It's actually in Majjhima Nikaya 39, and it's paragraph 6. My mental conduct shall be purified, clear and open, flawless and restrained, and I will not laud myself or disparage others on account of that purified mental conduct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Peg?
I'd like one too, please.
Okay. Peg. Here we go. My mind will be firm and well settled internally. Arisen bad, unwholesome states will not obsess my mind.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, that's in Anguttara Nikaya 863. And there are probably a lot of other things in there. Well, probably 7 other things in there too. But this one's for you. And I'll just read it one more time. My mind will be firm and well settled internally. Arisen bad, unwholesome states will not obsess my mind.
Thank you.
Welcome. Shane, want an instruction?
Yes, please.
Okay. I will be one who possesses experiential confidence in the Sangha. So that idea of experiential confidence, it's like it's a direct experiencing of the reality of awakening, since the time of the Buddha. So it's the experiential confidence in the awakened ones at whatever level, stream entry to arahantship, but that confidence. And that's from Samyutta Nikaya 55, 3.
Samyutta Nikaya Uh,
55,
553.
55.
And would you read that one more time, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will be one who possesses experiential confidence in the enlightened Sangha. I threw enlightenment in there, but it's in the Sangha.
Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you.
Yeah. Sophie?
Yes, I
Yes.
love one. And I also had a question about something from earlier. I can bring it up later after we've gone through everyone else, if that's okay.
No, I think I'll give you your instruction and then you ask the question.
Okay.
I will be moderate in eating.
Okay.
And that's from Anguttara Nikaya 556. So sometimes when you get the instruction and then you go to the sutta, you get, more about what's there.
It's funny because that one keeps coming up and people are like, really?
Yeah, so, okay.
Something to think about.
Yeah. What's your question, Sophie?
I was just curious to hear you talk more about trust, and the cultivation of trust.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we build trust based on experience. When we talk about trust in other people, the Buddha said you have to be around someone for a pretty long time to really be able to trust their wisdom based on what they say, trust their ability to handle money sensibly based on what you see them do, trust whether or not they keep confidence, all of those kinds of things we have to learn over time with people. And our development of trust in the Dhamma comes from really trying to live by the Dhamma and see the results. And of course, some of that trust also comes from insight that can arise because of our practice, through our practice. And like I said, it's someone asked me once when I was teaching a retreat, how do you approach the suttas? Like, do you just believe everything? Is it kind of do you take it literally? And I'm like, no, it depends. It depends on what's being said there. So, I know nothing's gonna last 2,600 years without some corruption. Because it's being handled by human beings, you know what I'm saying? So we have to be discerning too about, we look at you can really identify what the core teachings are that the Buddha gave because he comes at it from so many different angles and you can really see so many different examples and you start to see it in the world, you see it in our life, and it's true, but we always need to have that investigation, that questioning kind of faculty, like, no, we don't just believe something because somebody tells us or we read it or we need to check it out. So we develop that trust and then there'll come a point when it's just really solid. You know directly. The Buddha talked about that direct knowledge that arose on the night of his enlightenment. He knew directly about the Four Noble Truths. And there was so much joy that came with it. That also is a good indicator. And notice if you can feel the difference between the joy that comes from truth, even when you hear it spoken, and the joy or excitement that comes from getting something you want or something exciting or something kind of tantalizing. Just see if you can feel that difference internally. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sophie. Sarah.
I would also like some instruction.
Okay. This one comes from Majjhima Nikaya 61. Reflecting and reflecting again, I will purify my bodily conduct. Reflecting and reflecting again, I will purify my verbal conduct. Reflecting and reflecting again, I will purify my mental conduct. Thus should you train yourself. And this one is the Buddha talking to his son Rahula when he was very young and probably told a lie. And so the Buddha gives the whole description of how to work with that, how to work with your mind and how to work with your, actions and your speech. But this is beautiful, like reflecting and reflecting again. I will purify my actions. Reflecting and reflecting again, I will purify my speech. Reflecting and reflecting again, I will purify my thinking, my thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sarah. Anne?
So I wanted to share about the friends as you spoke about, and then the meditation.
Mhm.
And I like to sit and look at the sky sometimes when I'm meditating, which I was doing, and the sun there was a brief moment of sun in the rain. But my assignment to myself at the moment is to befriend my parents. So, and I started this around the time of the Day of the Dead, because shortly before that, I had a conversation with my sister, and she said, well, our mom was sort of like, yeah, well, our mom didn't do very well or something. She was widowed at a young age. And I was like, no, I mean, just basically just look at us. We're not a real mess, neither one of us.
Yeah.
So, that, I mean, I never really appreciated my mom at the time. So now I feel like I've got a photo of her and my dad at the wedding on my altar. And I just feel like I'm bringing them back and befriending them, which feels such a powerful thing to be doing. So,
Wonderful. Yeah.
so it isn't just befriending those people who are here. It can also be befriending those people who maybe we could have befriended better, especially if they're parents. So,
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's one of the ways that we learn how to be a good friend, I think. And I think maybe many people, I know I'm myself, I didn't appreciate my parents as much as they deserved, especially early on in my life. That's just not where our heads are, it's like, and I can see that, being a parent also, I saw that it's, when you're a child, when you're young and you're growing and developing, and maybe you reach what you think is adulthood, but you're looking outwards, you're going out into the world, you're developing your life, you're not looking back at the parents and so much. But it's true. It's even if we are very much appreciative of our parents, it's still helpful probably to reflect on, and at this later stage in life with all of our experience, we can see how much they gave us. It was really quite wonderful. And of course, not everyone has had that experience. Everybody's experience is different.
yeah, I appreciate that.
And we can also befriend that younger self of ours, that part that maybe made a lot of mistakes, but, really was trying, or however we might see it, really dealing with whatever the conditioning was then. And then we can start to think about that with every conscious living being, regardless of, what the circumstances are, there's some kind of conditioning that's gone into the choices that are being made, and there's something there to have compassion for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Anne. Any questions or comments? Yes, Philip. Sorry.
Thinking about confidence and having clarity about something versus just intuition.
Mhm.
I was thinking that intuition is like more feelings. Like sometimes confidence can feel like intuition, but recently I've felt like having to decide something or figuring out what to do. Confident, there's that sort of clear and steady confidence. Is more like, well, based on past experience, this or this, or maybe it's like, well, in the past I did this and I don't want to repeat that, so I'm going to avoid that.
Mhm.
Whereas intuition is just, it's more just like a feeling, right? It could be very strong, but
Yeah, I think intuition, it's interesting because it can be very strong. Sometimes intuition is the sort of place we get insight from. If it's insight, it's going to be clear, right? Then you're really like, oh, I know this is right. But like you're saying, we can be tuned into our intuition, and it's just kind of a gut feeling. And maybe we really can really see that it's correct, and we can have confidence in it, or maybe not.
I feel like I've been wrong about my intuition in the past. Like, oh, this felt very right, but then it turned out to be wrong. But then in other cases where I feel like I had a little more clarity in that it's feel kind of like intuition, like I don't have all the facts, I don't know how it's going to turn out. But then if it doesn't turn out well, having done this, I know before having done it that I will not have a regret. In a way that if it's just intuition, it's like, oh, that was just stupid. I was totally wrong.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is all areas of exploration to learn from. Yeah. And I remember, maybe many of you remember Joseph Campbell and Follow Your Bliss, I mean, that's something that I thought was pretty dangerous because our bliss can just come out of our conditioning of like whatever, but we have to sort of weigh things up in the light of Dhamma. I mean, when we have a gut feeling, is it in line with Dhamma or not?
Well, what about this? So intuition is a gut feeling, but then confidence has a component where it's like, whatever, however it turns out, you know that you won't regret because it's like the confidence comes from it's right based on what I know now.
So it's
And you
coming
won't
from your
regret.
experience, and you're basically making the best decision you can
Yeah.
based on what you know now. Mhm. Yeah, this is interesting to reflect on. Like, I have a friend who would often say, well, everybody's doing the best they can. And one day I said to him, no, we're not, like not all the time, like, let's say I'm in the kitchen and I'm about to eat something I shouldn't eat. And a friend comes in and says, it would really be better if you didn't eat that. Then I might change my mind, like I would, maybe I'm not doing the best I can, but with a little encouragement, I might do better, or we might encourage ourselves and do better. But the point being, we still are all operating in the moment from our conditioning. And then what other conditioning we can look for, conditioning that's going to help us, make wiser choices, or, help it's kind of like what's that dynamic between our gut feeling, our intuition, and our knowledge, and the good examples that we look to, and so on like that. Yes.
I remember coming across, I don't know, it might be in multiple places, but where the Buddha talks about regarding him as a good spiritual friend, and I remember like being kind of pleasantly surprised and loving it because it just felt so like soft and warm. But I find that I still struggle a bit to actually like feel that or to connect with that, because I think so much of what I've picked up and the way that I've related to the Buddha is as like the wise, revered teacher figure, right? And so like I have a lot of reverence and like, respect, and from that perspective. But so I think I find it kind of hard, and I look at him, I guess, through the lens of like the wise one. I don't necessarily look at him as like the compassionate or the friendly one. I mean, I know that's there, but yeah, do you have any suggestions for like connecting with some of these softer, like warmer pieces of who the Buddha was and how he was? Because I have some faith that's there, but I find it hard. And if I'm having like a difficult moment, or there's some pain or some dukkha, I want to imagine the Buddha like offering some comfort, or almost like a hand on the shoulder kind of thing, or but then I think often I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm like, I feel like the Buddha would probably be more like, see through it, like it's anatta, it's not self, rather than offering that comfort. But yeah, I don't know, like maybe that's just my own perception of what a compassionate friend is supposed to do or act like. So
yeah, it's interesting because of course a lot of it is our perception, right? Because we have the words that we're given, that we're told came from the Buddha. We can develop that confidence in what came from the Buddha just because of the profundity of it and the power of it and the way that it is so consistent, and how you see him teaching different people in different ways and coming back to the same message and the same clarity. And we build our own perception or image of the Buddha, right? Based on these things that we hear. And then there are all kinds of things that got added later, other people's perceptions of the Buddha, it's just like, so yeah, so it's like our own creation to a point also, like you're saying. One way that we can develop confidence in the Buddha's compassion, for example, is to recognize the moments when compassion comes up in us, when it's connected to wisdom. So we also have that experience when we have clarity around a situation and we see the suffering that's occurring, that compassion arises. And of course, that would also happen with the Buddha, as we are told it does. And the fact that the Buddha talked about developing the Brahma Viharas, and we can hear people today who are probably fully enlightened talking about how what's left is the Brahma Viharas. After you've let everything go, that's what you're working with. That's what's there, and the residual conditioning that arises, that you see it for what it is and you don't engage in it. So it's like we can know notice and take note when we experience that arising in ourselves, whether it's metta, karuna, mudita, or upekkha. And then we can know that the Buddha would be there to put that hand on your shoulder when that's going to be useful. And we can also see the places where he did that, like when he was about to die and he talked to Ananda about how great he's been this whole time, and that kind of thing. Ananda was really struggling with the loss of the Buddha. And there are times when the Buddha is like, well, you knew this was going to happen. So there are the times when he does the, like, don't you see, this is how it is. And then there's but you have been so good to the teacher. You have done so many wonderful things. You have, and that beautiful kind of encouragement. And you're close to finishing your work, that kind of encouragement, Yeah. So I think reflecting, to answer the question, I think reflecting on the things that help us develop these good qualities, these good perceptions. It's not like we want to throw away perceptions. We can't anyway. And the Buddha encouraged us to cultivate and develop certain perceptions. That's what I think. Any other questions, comments at the moment? Or anything you'd like to share? Yes, Paula?
Yeah, I really like that question that Brian just brought up. And I'm wondering if it's almost the awakened quality within us, the Buddha, that you're befriending. Is that another way to look at it? Or did you already say that and I kind of didn't pick it up?
No, I didn't say that, but I like it. Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of what the encouragement is oftentimes when like we're gonna take the refuges. It's like taking refuge in the Buddha as taking refuge in the awakened mind. Buddha is awakened mind, that this is the potential we all have. Sometimes they'll say this is our birthright as human beings. We have this capacity. So that's what we're befriending. That's what we're emulating and feeling. And having said that, maybe it's a good time to take the refuges and precepts if you haven't already. And if you have, it's never too many times. So, how many people have not yet taken the refuges and precepts in 2026? Okay, we're going to do it. Did you want to say anything, Shane?
No, you asked if who hasn't, and I was just raising my hand.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna share it. You want to share it? It's right there in the. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so Philip, would you mind leading the request?
Yeah. Page 17. Yeah.
Okay. Bow 3 times.
Mayang Ayya Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Dutiyampi Mayang Ayya Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Tatyampi Mayang Ayya Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato
Arahato Samma
sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tadiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tisaranang gamanang nititam. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Kami sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kami sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from false and harmful speech.
Suramaraya majapamadhatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Suramaraya majapamadhatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
Imani pancha sikkhapadani silena sukha tinyanti. Silena boka sampada. Silena nibhutinyanti tasma silam visodaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Lovely. Any last questions or comments? Yes, Kieran?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask for
Good thoughts for my mom who fell out of bed before I came back, and we took her to the hospital. She also has a UTI, which is clearing up, but her pain, she has ongoing pain, and I'm concerned that she might have a fracture that didn't show up on the x-ray. And my caregiver says the public hospital will probably not do anything else for her. So we're going to try to take her to a private clinic and see how that goes. And but she can't get up on her own. She can't get to the bathroom. Just very difficult. Everything's and she's screaming in pain. When we get her up to use the bedside commode. So yeah, so people could send kind thoughts to her. And
is the pain in her back?
No, it's in her leg.
Oh, okay.
Kind of the upper leg, hip socket area.
Okay, maybe there's a fracture, hip fracture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll keep her in our blessings and merit sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So sorry, Cadwin.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Great to see all of you. I hope you have a great 3 months of winter, if it's winter where you are, otherwise 3 months, whatever. And, you know, I think you probably know we're going to continue with these sessions on Saturday morning. They're going to be dedicated to mindfully facing disease and death over the next 3 months. And also during this year, Grace is going to be offering a monthly Dhamma session on the second Monday evening of each month. I think it's the second Mondays and it's 7 to 8:30 in the evening Pacific time.
Yeah, it is on the website. You put it on the homepage.
It's on the homepage.
And it's on the calendar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just so you know. And then, of course, in April, Sutta study will start again. There will be a number of retreats that are going to happen this year, and probably a trip to Thailand. So we'll pick all that organizing and so on up when we finish our retreat in the beginning of April. So take care, everyone.